Well, hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to our Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month Spotlight with none other than the esteemed Mr. Derek Okubo. Hi, Derek.
Hello.
I see you have the COVID-19
Yeah, it's just kind of the relaxed version. I don't have to dress up in my suits because everything's virtual.
Yes. Well, hey, before we start, I'm going to share your bio with everybody. So, Derek, you are currently the Executive Director for the Agency for Human Rights and Community Partnerships for the City of Denver. And you are a Colorado native, a Sansehan, fourth generation Japanese, was raised in Littleton, Colorado, and graduated right up the street at Arapahoe High School. And you attended the University of Colorado and graduated with a degree in psychology and double minors in communication and sociology.
Northern Colorado.
Oh, UNC. Oh my goodness.
Uh-huh.
I misread. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Let's make sure we get the right alma mater. And you were hired by Big Brothers of Metropolitan Denver as the services coordinator for Denver County. And you also started the Big Brothers High School program, where you utilized high school students as mentors and tutors to the children on the waiting list. That's amazing. You were appointed by Governor Roy Romer's staff as a community liaison to Northeast Colorado. And you were hired by the National Civic League, the nation's oldest good government organization, as the Assistant Director of Community Services. And then you rose through the NCL ranks, becoming the Senior Vice President, where you oversaw all of NCL's projects and programs. And then in 2011, that's when you were appointed to become the Executive Director of the Agency for Human Rights and Community Partnerships. And that is where you oversee 10 city offices. And those city offices include anti-discrimination, disability rights, equity and social innovation, immigrant and refugee affairs, aging, community affairs, sign language services, strategic partnerships, storytelling, and financial empowerment, and 10 mayoral appointed advisory commissions. And each 21-member commission advises you and the mayor on community issues and strategies to provide positive impacts in addressing those issues. But your most important job is dad to 3 grown boys. And then another really cool fact about you is that you were a former chairperson for the DPS Asian Education Advisory Council. Yes. So that's just your mini bio.
Yeah, and I'll say that my 3 kids, I have a daughter and then 2 boys.
Okay, yes, that's 2 mistakes I made. I'm not normally that clumsy, but thanks for correcting me on that. UNC and 2 boys and a daughter. So where does your daughter? Is she in the middle?
No, she's the oldest.
Ah, okay.
She was a good one to have as the oldest.
So I'm really curious. I want to go back to, you were sharing a little bit about you being a 4th generation or 3.5 generation, which side of the parenting you choose to talk about. But can you share more about the story of how your family came to the U.S.?
Yeah, well, on my dad's side, let's start with my mom's side, since they came over earlier. In the late 1800s, early 1900s, you think about immigrants that come to the U.S., they were risk takers. They had wanted to join the American dream and came here to the U.S. And my great grandfather on my mom's side landed in Seattle and started a store there. On my dad's side, they immigrated in the teens, right around World War I, somewhere around 1918, and came to the United States and started a store in Eagle Rock, California. And so that's how our family started. unfortunately, because of World War II and the imprisonment of Japanese Americans and Japanese, they lost their stores. That's why I grew up in Colorado. Was on my dad's side. His family was relocated and imprisoned in AAPI in Colorado. And then my mom's family was imprisoned in Idaho at Minidoka. And when my mom's family was released, they heard it wasn't safe to go back to Seattle, but it was safe to come to Colorado because of Governor Ralph Carr at that time, who spoke out against the internment camps. And only governor west of the Mississippi. So they moved to Colorado. About 3 years later, my mom and dad met at a dance at the Tri-State Buddhist Temple. And my siblings and I will say, if it weren't for Governor Carr, we'd be out there in the ether somewhere, along with. And our story is very similar to some other folks too, but that's how we ended up here in Colorado and our family's history.
That's amazing. It's a very similar story. I'm hearing from many Japanese Americans that I've been talking to about how their family came to Colorado. But fast forward, you have this really important role in the city of Denver. What's a typical day like for you? You're overseeing all of these city offices. I imagine like you just have to go, go, go.
Yeah, it's pretty. Every day is different, which is what I like. I'm very fortunate. I feel the best team of any department in Denver, and I have some office directors who are among the most accountable, creative. They understand the whole concept of what it means to be a public servant, which is what we are. We're here for the people of Denver, and so an average day is meeting a lot with them as far as different issues that are going on, different programming. My job, I think, is to create an environment that is creative, where creativity is allowed, and then to help them think through some of the ideas that emerge. And that's how I think a lot of the programming that we have that is pretty cool is because they came up with it, and then we thought it through as far as how to start it, how to fund it, et cetera, how to staff it. But meeting with different departments, we are an agency that works with pretty much every single city department as far as their community, their work and engaging the community, how to do it, reaching certain parts of the community that they're unable to. And then also doing a lot of problem solving, meeting with a lot of constituents, because when government is the go-to entity, when people are struggling, when they have, when they're frustrated with the way things are going, or if they have nowhere else to go, they'll come to government. So we'll get them in touch with the right resources, whether it's within city government or with our nonprofit partners, oftentimes. So every day is different. There's never a dull moment, I will say.
Well, you mentioned, you understand all of the issues around COVID and working with Denver Public Schools and trying to service like our hardest to serve communities. And we kind of joked around a little bit about you can never please everybody all the time, but yet you have the weight, such a weight and responsibility. How do you manage making decisions that will impact so many different people?
Well, as I told you, before we got online here, if I had mentioned, if you want to be popular, then don't be a parent and don't be a leader, because if popularity is your goal, then you're going to fail miserably at both. The first thing is to engage the community, though. Is to really, rather than do to or do for, our principle is to do with, and to engage, so that the community, what we found and what my experience professionally has proven to me, is that the community knows best, what needs to happen. And so we have to engage them. They might not know how it's going to be done, but they know what needs to happen that isn't happening now. So engagement is the first thing. And so um, when you do that, the more likelihood of making a decision that the community will support, because they will support what they help create. And so when that happens, then you're going to always have some people who are not going to be happy. But if they understand why the decision is made, even if they don't agree with it, that's a win right there, in itself. So I'd say that the engagement of the community is absolutely essential.
So when you are you still working with Big Brothers or um,
No, no,
not
I'm not.
right now? I'm just really curious how you got inspired to develop and be a part of that and your high school program because there are young people watching and teachers watching
Oh,
who
yeah.
want to get involved in Big Brothers.
Yeah. And to this day, mentoring programs are, I think, one of the most essential programs that are out there. And, anytime that you think about even Priscilla, when you think about what, how you got to where you are, oftentimes there's always a few mentors that you came across along the way, that took you under their wing and showed you. Well, at Big Brothers, that I was just so darn lucky to land there because I was in my last quarter at UNC in my major psychology. We had to do a internship, and Big Brothers was one of the three organizations that my um, um, counselor or I forget what they called him in college, but gave me as far as to do this internship, and I ended up at Big Brothers and ended up getting hired at the end of my internship to be the Denver County coordinator. Well, we had a list of 500 kids that were on our waiting list. And sometimes they would wait as long as 3.5 years before they even started the process of getting matched. And that was just way too long and it was frustrating. And so through a grant, the executive director at that time asked me to come up with an idea as far as how to utilize high school students and with our um, uh, as the contributor, to the program. And I mean, it was amazing. I remember talking with I started with DPS. And I remember back then talking with a few counselors at the high schools, that I wanted to start with. And they told me it's never going to work. High school students aren't dependable enough. They will never follow through. It's not going to work. And what that did is it made me mad, it ticked me off. And so anytime that happens, I just become more determined. And so I found a few other high schools that said, yeah, we'll try it. And I will tell you, Priscilla, that in the 5 years that I ran that program, my high school volunteers followed through better than the adult volunteers.
Oh, wow.
And it was we provided a good structure, a good training, a good follow-up. We had them sign contracts. But yeah, no, I had over those 5 years, I think I had two high school volunteers who did not follow through. And that was out of several hundred volunteers that we had. And they were sensational. And all it did was convince me that this is back in the 80s, and that our high school students were an untapped resource for our communities. And it was a great experience for me.
Well, it sounds like we're going to have to tap into Big Brothers as a resource as we transition during this time. Um, and I want to thank you also for your service as our former chair. And I know you have a meeting coming up. So I would love to close out by asking you, what is something during this coronavirus that is bringing joy in your life and putting a smile on your face?
Huh. That is really a good question. I think the sheltering in place has really awakened, what's really important to you as far as, or important to me as far as with other people, people that I especially missed, during the shelter in place. But then also the amazement of this technology that we have. I mean, Zoom, Teams, Microsoft Teams, WebEx, all these different mechanisms that allow us to stay in touch despite being isolated, and so I think the joy is this technology and utilizing it. I mean, this is like I was talking with my mom this weekend. She's in a assisted living, and we had to talk through the window. I was about 8 feet outside her window at the facility, and she still does not like technology, but I was telling her about this stuff, and she goes, "Oh, George, it's just like the Jetsons." But it is, and I want to get her an iPad so that she would use it. She still fights it all the time and everything, but or even the cell phone she won't use. But this technology stuff and being able to contact people, I think I'm doing this face-to-face type stuff more than calling people on the phone, and so that wouldn't have happened without this. And it's nice to be able to see the face and talk to people. And I think that this is going to become more of the norm, as far as getting in touch with my own kids and family and friends from all over the world.
Well, this has been a joy for me to nail you down and get some FaceTime and to just learn a little bit more about you and have the community get a little more insight into your history and how you've contributed so much through the years to the community. You have reached hundreds and thousands of people with the work that you've done. So thank you.
Well, that you're being very kind there, and but you and I both know that we stand on the shoulders of those that came before us, the things that they taught us. And I mean, the folks that had the patience. I was not the easiest guy, growing up. I think my mom, she always says, "Oh, your dad would be so proud of you with what you've accomplished." Well, the reason why is because I was the one that he worried most about, because I was the wild child in among my siblings. And so along the line, I had some great mentors who took me, for some reason or another, took me under their wing, and I am because of what they gave me, and I'll never forget that, and I never take it for granted either.
Well, Derek, thank you for being so generous with your time, and we really appreciate all the hard work you do. And please give my best to your mom. How old is your mom?
89.
89.
Yep.
And wishing all of you well and good health.
And you too, and everybody else who might be out there watching.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
Take care.
So thank you.